Hey everybody, Tony here from Boost to Hit. So for today's cast, I really want to look at the new Orgoth Invasion that's currently happening in year 622 AR of the Iron Kingdoms. So that's kind of what this lorecast is going to be about. We're going to talk very, very briefly about the initial Orgoth Invasion from 1200 years ago. Kind of looking at, hey, really, really high level stuff. I'll do a whole another lore cast at some point as to what's going on with that. And then we're going to talk just about the first part of this invasion. Currently, we have two parts of the invasion. I'm just going to talk about the very first part where they initially land in Khador, kind of do a little bit of a deep dive on that one. And then we'll talk very high level of kind of, hey, what is going to happen over the next couple years and how impactful this is going to be. So if everybody's ready, let's dig in. All right, everyone. So before we even take a look at what's currently happening in the events of 622 AR, we really need to step about 1,200 years into the past to look at the initial invasion of the Orgoth. Like I said, it's going to be really high level view. So looking at about 608 BR, that's before the rebellion, is when the Orgoth initially landed on the shores of Garlgast Island and began the construction of their great fortress. So over the next 200 years, so from about 608 BR to about 400 BR, is really when the Orgoth started subjugating all of Emerald, right? They took a lot, started enslaving them, all of this stuff. And then it wasn't until about 150 BR, which BR again being before the rebellion of the Orgoth, is when Thamar's deal happened. And Thamar's deal is that he went to the Infernals and said that he would give them not only 2/3 of all of humanity's souls, but also write out the location of the Iosian gods in exchange for humanity to gain magic. And this would allow them eventually to gain the arcane ability to create warjacks and have these warcasters we have. So that happened around 150 BR. So it took another 150 years until the humans finally started rebelling against the Orgoth. So the Orgoth rebellion, AR, after rebellion, is at 0 AR is when they finally started to rebel against them, and it took them a whole 200 or so years to finally kick them out. So Orgoth occupied Emerald for a good 800 years almost before that they were finally eradicated, right? We had 200 years where they were taking over them, 400 years where they were totally in control, and then took humanity another 200 years ago and kicked them out. That is a significant amount of time. So we've only been free of the Orgoth for 400 years, which sounds like a long time, right? Because in our time it would be the 1600s. But for Emerald, that's not that long because they had to deal with them for 800 years beforehand. So now we're going to jump into current time, right? So current time is 622 AR, and word is sent to Ice Watch, and Ice Watch is one of the watches in Khador, and what they say is that there is a small village called Morvalna that is near Bourne's Point, and they're saying that there's these unusual ships there. They think they might be pirates, but they're not positive, and they really want the new Winter Guard to come out there and go help them. So a fairly new caster, Alari Bordskuk, probably butchering the name, I apologize, is sent to investigate it. And he takes a ragtag group of the Winter Corps, right? So the Winter Corps is a new group that was created by Khador, and half of these people have never seen combat before, but the other half are over 50 years old, right? So they've taken some of the old stuff, new stuff, manging them all together. And when they initially thought that it was pirates, but when they actually arrived there, they first heard the tide of screams from this village, and they saw dozens of ships out in the sea. And as they're looking, they start realizing these are not pirate ships. These are these horrible monsters. And they start seeing hundreds and hundreds of Orgoth start to come from these ships where they land, taking villagers as captives. The Winter Corps, for their part, right, Boris tries as best as he can to save them, He ends up losing probably a good half of his squad in this initial combat. And then as he's going through, he says, oh no, we need to escape. We need to step back. We need to go let people know that this is happening. This is the Orgoth. These are the stuff of our nightmares. And what we see from the Orgoth side is the initial warcast that lands is Sabareth. And she knows that Horusk and Kishtar are soon behind, and they each need to do whatever they can to try to gain as many souls as possible, because they follow a different faction of Infernals, and they need to make sure that those Infernal gods get their share of souls. So after they try to run away from Snizzle Village, they get to a area called Skrovenberg. It is the next siege to be sieged after Alari ran from the small cohort there. So the city is surrounded by water and is a great port. This port is used to allow goods from inland in to be shipped out. So really big area that they need to keep, right? So before this siege, they counted up to 10,000 Orgoth, right? Because they start seeing that as soon as they get there, they're raising this bridge up because they see Orgoth chasing after them. Bridge gets raised up, and they think they're safe for at least a short amount of time. So they're watching the Orgoth out there, and they probably count 10,000 Orgoth soldiers outside the gates of Skrovenberg. They have to do everything they can to defend it, right? But as they are trying to, get ready, get set up, they all of a sudden hear bombardments. And there is another ship that's actually coming through this port. It ends up being Horusk's ship. So this ship, as it's going through, it's taking majority of this damage because they're trying to blow it up. Horusk isn't going to have any of this, right? So he ends up taking a lot of his cannons, a lot of his warjacks that are a different style than what Emran's warjacks are, and starts attacking the gate. So he's actually attacking the chains to have the ability to lower the bridge. They end up doing that fairly quickly, breaking the bridge down, and then even though these cities' gates doors are closed, Orgoth are just charging it and destroying. Now, this is a 10,000 strong army. Even before this additional ship showed up, they know that this is going to be taken over. So because they know that the city is going to be taken over, they make the decision that they have to make sure that this information continues getting passed down to the leaders of Khador, to Queen An, so that they can start letting the rest of Emra know that the Orgoth are back. So their next move is that they need to move to Port Vladvor. It is a little bit further south. So as they start exiting out of there, they see Starkenberg fall, and is the first official city that has fallen in a new Orgoth campaign. On Boris's way to Vladimir, he is actually attacked again, this time by Sabareth. So the two warcasts are going back and forth, they're fighting. Boris ends up getting the upper hand and puts her onto the ground. As she's about to die, she states, "Your dark prince has fallen. The prophecy of Dagoloth is nigh." This causes Boris to pause for a second. They end up, during this time, right, as he's about to kill Sab, another Orgoth warrior got between them, sacrificing himself so that Sabareth can escape. Sabareth ends up, running back. They pull her away. She's almost dead at this point, but they pull her away, and Boris is almost overrun as he starts seeing more and more and more Orgoth coming. He thinks that it is his death. He's almost embracing at this, but then all of a sudden he hears these cannons, and it's the cannons from Port Vladvar light up the sky, pushing the Orgoth back. And actually you end up seeing Commander Strakov, one of the older warcasters from the earlier days, is actually there to save him. He goes in, pulls the injured Boris out, helping him recover. And he leans in and tells them that they need to take the remaining citizens to Korusk, and that he and this other individual named Volkorva, they need to go and start exploring more about this Dagoloth. And as soon as she hears the name, she pauses. It was actually a great seer, a doomsayer of the Orgoth. He was a warlord, and his tomb is in the Wormwalls that is up in Signar territory. So they said, hey, they have to go and look. They have to try to explore this tomb more to find out what's going on. and also that they know that Vladimir is going to fall. So shortly afterwards, right, they start taking all of the citizens there, the military, and they start going towards Kursk. And shortly afterwards, Port Vladimir falls, and Onk is next to fall. It is part of the Orgoth's campaign. And that's probably where Kishtara is going to be at. She's going to be at Ork, and she needs both of the other two warcasters to be able to help support. Now we're kind of looking more into what is this prophecy that it was. So we look a little bit more, and you start seeing that this prophecy is actually it is a prophecy that was created about Vlad. And the prophecy reads, "From death I see the end. The shrine is shattered, the mighty fall. The darkened tomb, my words ring true. A dark prince brings death anew. Come lightless masters on ebon rings. Come sunless dawns and fallen kings. Across the sea where black sails plume, the once defeated bring forth doom. The heavens butchered and gods cast down, and blood divine all shall drown. Take your blade in vengeful hate, strike me down and seal your fate." So what they end up hearing is that when they go to this tomb, Dragoloth is still there. He has become a Deathless. And a Deathless is more like a ghost of a very powerful Orgoth warlord. And they're so strong that they still are alive. They almost inherit a body, or maybe like a body of armor, but they can't leave their tomb. They were so strong that their body refuses to die, right? And unfortunately, they're completely confined to their tomb, but they still have great power, and they still feel they have this great power over everybody. And kind of what you see there is that, unfortunately, during series events that I'm not really going to deep dive, I really suggest you reading the stories that are in the app about this. But Boris ends up being able to kill Dagolith with Vlad's old blade, thus setting the prophecy really into motion. And I really think it's the part that take your blade in vengeful hate, because he killed him. Because he wanted to make sure that Khador still stayed alive. Strike me down and seal the fate. So because he ended up killing Dragoloth, he's almost he's fulfilled the prophecy to where now the once defeated who bring forth doom are the Orgoth are coming back, and the heavens butchered and gods cast down, which makes it seem like we already know that the Iosian casters have been killed. Sorry, not casters, the Iosian gods have been killed, but we think more are going to be dying. So possibly this is the Orgoth's attempt to start killing all the other Emerald gods. So we've got to see more of that. Obviously, there is a second part of the lore dealing with the Orgoth Invasion that we'll talk about probably in the next couple weeks. But I just kind of want to hear what everyone's thoughts is on this initial one. Thank you all very much, and appreciate everybody tuning in.